This week is pretty out there. Monday is sort of cold and uninviting. During the first part of the day, the moon sextiles Saturn. That's actually not bad. It kind of makes, I would maybe argue that it even makes Monday's cold invitingness a little more comfortable. We're just in the mood to get to work. Or even if you're not in the mood and you do, that'll work out well for you. Monday, the first part of Monday has a more serious quality. The next part of the day is a little more annoying, or maybe even aggressive. It's that thing where the moon in Capricorn is being kind of cold and logical and not really giving into needs. It's just sort of taking care of things that need to be taken care of. And Mars in Cancer needs things and is going to throw a tantrum for not getting them. So look at who you are in that dynamic. And just know if you are wanting to be very all business on Monday, you will probably get resistance and it might be even dangerous. In the evening on Monday, Mercury enters Aquarius. So the quality of this time is getting even more cold, logical. For the next couple of weeks, you're going to be able to get downright scientific about anything you need to figure out, anything that relates to the Mercury parts of your chart. If you don't know how to read your own chart, I have a course on how to read your own chart. It's linked below. And I'm gonna stop doing it soon, so get it. Whatever parts of your chart Mercury rules, wherever it is natally, anything you need to figure out, anything you need to communicate, you could do that with scientific precision. And enjoy that, because Mercury is only in Aquarius for a couple of weeks. Mercury speeds through Aquarius and moves into Pisces on Valentine's Day. And that will be closer to what we had in the holidays, which is kind of all over the place, but in a different way, more of like your eyeballs just going east and west. This Mercury in Aquarius is very special because it's the exterior cazimi. That's conjunction with the sun when Mercury is direct instead of retrograde. This is Mercury looking down on everything, surveying the whole landscape and figuring out what are some structural changes we could make. So that's, whatever your part of your life is governed by Mercury, that could be advantageous. Also keep in mind the house that coincides with the sign of Aquarius in your chart, because that'll have something to do with it. Just had to check to make sure I was recording. So that's at night on Monday. It's like late evening if you're on the west coast of North America, so it's at night if you're on the east coast of North America. A couple hours after Mercury moves into Aquarius, the moon opposes Mars. So this is the thing I was talking about, where like one end of the spectrum is kind of like, I wouldn't say checked out, but detached and just being all business, being very practical, even though it may not want to be. And the other side of the spectrum is throwing a tantrum. Monday's kind of dangerous. There is one modifier, one thing that kind of augments the danger of Monday, and that's the moon is waning down, nearly balsamic at this point. So the moon doesn't have much light and it's diminishing to nothingness. So whatever happens here doesn't have a lot of juice. It doesn't have a lot of gas, unless it does. And if you know what I mean, then you know what I mean. But if you don't, I don't want you to. Late at night on Monday, the moon trines Uranus. So this adds to the tantrum, throwing fits, potentially upsetting quality of Monday. But there's a ceiling on how bad that could be, I think, because the moon doesn't have a ton of light. It's just like a mild electrical shock. And if you're up super late on Monday, the moon in Capricorn does make a sextile with exalted Venus in Pisces. So for what that's worth, that's kind of complicated. That's the moon in detriment, contacting Venus in the sign of her exaltation, near the degree of her exaltation. So it could be wonderful if you're going to be up late. Maybe that's making up after whatever happened earlier, or some form of self-soothing, and enjoy that, because almost immediately after, I think it's a couple hours after, Venus enters shadow. So now the story, sometimes whatever that is going to be about, the Venus retrograde that's coming, whatever that is going to be about can sometimes start like the second Venus enters shadow. So Monday's your last day to get Venus stuff out of your system, but it's kind of complicated, and there seem to be a few like more unpleasant parts of Monday. So look, I always, if a day looks astrologically unpleasant, I can at least try to get some work done. And then if some unpleasantries distract me from that, that's almost kind of fun. Because then like, oh no, I couldn't work all day because there was a fight or something. The beginning of Tuesday, Venus is now in shadow. So now all Venus things are going to be, whatever's happening now with that is going to be transformed when we get to mid-April. So we're beginning a story that it's like now through technically sometime in May. That's the time between Venus entering shadow, which are the set of degrees that Venus retrogrades over, like back through. And sometime in May is going to be when Venus clears that set of degrees again. Right now we're here, and Venus is going to station retrograde and be retrograde, and that's going to be a gnarly time, and she'll get back to here in station direct, and then by mid-May she'll clear those degrees. The moon also sextiles Neptune on Tuesday morning, so plan on sleeping in. Tuesday is not a day where you're going to really, it's not, probably not going to be a day, depending on your chart, where you're going to like wake up early with no alarm and get so much done. Midday on Tuesday, the moon moves into Aquarius, so now we're making contact with that very logical Mercury, and the emphasis comes to whatever part of your chart is Aquarius. And Tuesday is really interesting because that's the moon moves into Aquarius. Then a couple hours later, the moon conjoins Mercury, so we get like kind of a signal of what this like super quick Mercury and Aquarius transit is going to be about. And then about an hour later, the moon conjoins Pluto. And remember, the sun conjoined Pluto last Tuesday, which I should have said the moon was like, see you next Tuesday. And then at night, Mercury conjoins Pluto, like late at night. So all day is really about that, Mercury conjoining Pluto. Moon is the activator of the zodiac. It's Mercury's conjunction with Pluto is being activated as it's happening. So remember, the sun conjoined Pluto early last Tuesday. So something important happened in America last Monday, and that could be characterized as the sun conjoining Pluto. Something might come up about that on Tuesday, even though like it's always up. It's always up. That's the way information flows now, makes everything up. But maybe something will happen around that. Again, the moon doesn't have much juice. The moon is in Aquarius, is balsamic, so that means it's waning down to almost nothing. It doesn't have a lot of strength, and the light is about to die and get totally dark. Tuesday night is technically the dark moon. It goes exact early in the morning on Wednesday, and this dark moon is very out there. It's kind of boring, almost. Except not. And you'll see this dark moon marks an expenditure of energy that culminated back on August 19th of 2024. That's also the first Jupiter-Saturn square. So go watch my managed wellness video. That's what I think these 3 Jupiter-Saturn squares throughout mid-2024 through mid-2025 are about. So it's Mercury conjoining Pluto. We had the inauguration last week when the sun conjoined Pluto, and this is a dark moon that marks like an expenditure of energy from, I guess, that whole campaign, like presidential campaign stuff. And now it's going to reset. And I think there's something brewing around like all this, if you didn't want it. If you were a person who didn't want like massive surveillance and the government forcing you to do stuff, or your job forcing you to do stuff, or if you did want that and you liked it, don't be sad because it's not going away. It's just coming up in a different way. Like instead, it's this idea of managed wellness. So this is Mercury and Pluto and the dark moon in the same decan of Aquarius that the Jupiter-Saturn conjunction happened, the Mars-Saturn conjunction happened. These are like big things, and like Mars-Saturn was like peak lockdowns and then protests during COVID. And then the Jupiter-Saturn conjunction marked the beginning of several big cycles all at once. And that was the vaccine rollout. And there was a bunch of stuff around that. Like summer, the Leo Aquarius axis was very activated with like what doing things for the good of everybody versus, asserting your sovereignty, whatever, for better or for worse. Now we see Pluto in that area. That's corruption. So what I think that is like all the things that were trying to be like overtly imposed upon people, for better or for worse. Sometimes things need to be imposed. I'm not here to have a discussion about what those things are. That's like a whole podcast, roundtable, panel discussion. But I think this idea of managed wellness, that like weird stuff that has to do with like tracking and training AI through, because AI, they already like gobbled up all the existing data. So now the data that trains AI is human data. And the AI needs humans to stay alive. Like AI can never have something really special about humans is that they are a bridge between the material realm and the spiritual realm. And AI can never be that, needs humans as an intermediary. So this is how we're going. I'm like fast forwarding to like Pluto and Pisces, which is in 20 years. Anyway, dark moon in Aquarius. This is Mercury and Pluto together with the leadership, the sun, with the moon, activator. Something is going underground. Like, there's a lot of great... The idea of Maha is wonderful. I think there's stuff embedded in it. Not everybody's going to like. And it's not... And I'm not talking about raw milk. I'm talking about like blockchain stuff and tracking everything. There's a video that I've referenced before called IXO Blockchain. It's a Vimeo video. It's stuff like that, where it's like, you don't necessarily, you're not going to be forced to eat bugs or anything, but every single part of your life is going to be tracked. You're going to be okay with it because it's verifiably private, but you're going to be compelled to share that data. Okay, dark moon in Aquarius. And that's my 12th house, so I'm somehow undermining myself probably by saying what I think. Probably the wrong opinion. The 12th house can be like disenchantment, and I think in the case of like the Saturn-ruled air sign, cynicism. So I'll own that. I'll go ahead and own that. So Wednesday, dark moon in Aquarius. We're waking up to a waxing moon. Now it's a new cycle, so whatever is... So all that stuff I was talking about for Tuesday, I think we can expect to see something about that, about managed wellness, about how Maha is on chain and how that's not necessarily amazing for everybody or something that everybody wants. Sometime around August 9th. So like, or even like all summer, we'll see stuff around that. But like the peak culmination is the full moon in Aquarius, August 9th. The third Jupiter-Saturn conjunction, which takes place instead of in Gemini and Pisces, takes place in Cancer and Aries, which I think will be like, oh, this is about something else. That happens June 15th. So we'll probably start to see it like pretty soon, like mid-spring. But this whole, I think all of like Q2 and part of Q3 is about this. Culminates August 9th. Managed wellness. I'll link the video. On Wednesday morning, we also have the moon in Aquarius trining Jupiter in Gemini. And something that I noted in my Jupiter in Gemini video is that I think we're going to get really excited about blockchain. So there might be some excitement around that as early as Wednesday. So Wednesday morning, optimistic, we feel refreshed. The moon just died and was reborn. And you're working on something in the Aquarius part of your life until August. And the infrastructure is working on how to ensnare you through your desire for wellness. The rest of Wednesday is characterized by the moon in Aquarius squaring Uranus in Taurus. So that might be like, no, I don't want to put my independent cow farm on blockchain. Something like trying to preach the wonders of computational law to the farmer just outside of town. And the farmer rebels. There's something like I feel like this, I reject the whole like Uranus is the ruler of Aquarius. That's not true. There's something like there is like innovation to be had with Aquarius, and that does rhyme with what Uranus is about in astrology, but Aquarius is ruled by Saturn. And it's Saturn's fixed sign. So this Aquarius moon is very stubborn with like how the future should be and the rules that need to be made. And Uranus in Taurus is not willing to give up like the real meat space connections that can't be tracked. So the second half of Wednesday seems uncomfortable. And it's like something, the moon's still dark, but it's something that could be pulled out, like something that might not seem that significant on that day, but could be like extruded all the way out into mid-August. And that's particularly true because this is the moon making contact with Uranus, as it was on Monday. Uranus stuff, even though the moon doesn't have a lot of light at all this week, on Monday and Wednesday, the moon's connection with Uranus could be like particularly loud and prominent, or even if they aren't very loud, like prominent, noted. It's like that thing where the guy was like reading the space signals in the 80s or the 70s or something, and he was like, wow, with an exclamation. There are like notes on this like printout of radio waves from space. That's kind of like what this is. I'll try to find that and post it. Because Uranus is stationing direct, and when planets station, everything that planet is about is emphasized. So there's emphasis. So this is why I keep saying this week is out there. This is the dark moon in Aquarius, with the ruler of Aquarius in Pisces, with Neptune. It's like, there's like corruption and very like brass tacks stuff going on. Like all the math is being done behind the scenes, maybe not to your benefit, but then there's also some like woo, romantic, imaginary things going on. Pisces and Aquarius are both very out there places in the zodiac, but in very, very different ways. And then Uranus, also out there, the first planet beyond what we could see with the naked eye, for the most part, is stationing this week. So weird week, ready to, like, this is a week to shake things up in a quiet way that lasts a long time, like make changes that last. In the second half of Thursday, the moon moves into Pisces. So big change in tone. Thursday's like, maybe something surprising. It might not be right on that day too. It's kind of, the Uranus stationing applies to the whole week, roughly. And the sun trines Jupiter on Thursday afternoon. That means Jupiter is also about to station. Jupiter stationed retrograde October 9th. So Jupiter stations direct February 4th. So during this time, I talked about, you can rewind back to whatever week that was when I was talking about Jupiter stationing. Also my Jupiter in Gemini video. Jupiter retrograde is just like staticky. Okay, my hair's just gonna stick to my face, whatever. The Jupiter retrograde period is like everything that Jupiter is about, which is like victory, luck, opportunities, stuff that makes you feel optimistic, that gives you hope. It's kind of wound down through the Jupiter retrograde period. That's when, like, if you got something lucky while Jupiter was direct after its conjunction with the sun, so that would have been basically summer of 2024, you had to make good on it during this time, Jupiter retrograde. So now the work that you've been doing is gonna pay off. If you've been, proving yourself, if you got like a small business loan, you got approved for a small business loan sometime in the summer of 2024, this is you like actually doing stuff with that money these past few months. And then, that work, those good decisions paying off. It's like where your nobility pays off. So that process of Jupiter stationing direct in early February is beginning this week with Thursday's sun trining Jupiter. And Thursday night is kind of fun. It could be kind of fun in that regard because the moon is squaring Jupiter. The moon in Pisces squaring Jupiter in Gemini. So that's like fun, and maybe you don't want to have that kind of fun. Like maybe you don't want to do like, you just want to chill, but there's like fun to be had. And maybe it has to do with like use of your nobility, your sense of hope and freedom. Maybe it's overwhelming. Maybe there are like too many opportunities to take advantage of and you try to take advantage of all of them and you don't really want to at all, and that's how Jupiter is in detriment. Right now, Thursday night strikes me as like potentially a little bit overwhelming. There's just like the opportunities, the good stuff available is just like more than you could take on, but still good. There's still like plenty of good stuff in there. It's just how it's a square instead of a trine. It's a square wave. So think of the good music that can be made with a square wave that's not like conventionally beautiful sound. Friday, that's how the morning starts. That's like late morning, the moon, Jupiter square goes exact, or that's in the afternoon if you're on the East Coast in North America. And Friday's complicated because the rest of the day is just the moon applying to a conjunction with Saturn, so more serious. Thursday night could be fun in a sloppy way, and Friday's more serious. Friday night, on the other hand, late at night if you're on the West Coast, and really, really late at night if you're on the East Coast in North America. Friday night could be like, have some like energetic, like maybe you just can't sleep on Friday night because the moon is trining Mars, retrograding Cancer. So I don't know, does that like have something to do with Saturday, like this past Saturday, salacious Saturday, whatever day that was? I think that was Saturday. Reminding you of that, or it strikes me as very like primal. I feel like almost maybe the needs get met, whatever your needs are, on Friday night. Saturday is busy. It's also kind of fun and nice. The moon sextiles Uranus early in the morning, so maybe Saturday is the day that you do wake up early and you get things done with no alarm. You're just awake. Or if you do want to wake up intentionally early, Saturday is probably a good day to do it. We have the moon trining Mars and sextiling Mercury. I like moon Mars and moon Mercury early in the morning for waking up early. And most of the rest of the day, during the day, is the Venus-Neptune conjunction. And Venus is applying to Neptune all week, so be careful. That's weird. That's like something you decide that you want that is going to get warped and strange. With also Neptune is with the North Node. So very weird, very changey, and whatever you think is changing or whatever changes you want to make, they're going to come back to you in a very different way. So Venus is now in shadow. Venus is conjoining Neptune. This will be one of 3 conjunctions with Neptune. So maybe I'll make a Venus retrograde video. So something about Saturday or this week is going to come up later, and it's like, it's a beautiful, rich, romantic, imaginative, sumptuous, potentially, but also potentially illusory. And we're going to drive over this a few times over the next few months. So understand when you look back, like on Sunday, when you look back on this Saturday, understand it as a piece that is going to be, we're going to come back to this, whatever it was. Or like next week, when you look back on this week, think of it that way. But Saturday contains all those aspects going exact. So at least by Saturday or after Saturday, you'll know what that's about or what your Venus retrograde is going to be about. So Sunday, it's similar to Tuesday in that we have a bunch of aspects and the moon is coming through and activating it immediately. So on Sunday in the morning, the Venus conjoins Neptune. Then in the afternoon, the moon conjoins Neptune and then conjoins Venus. So Saturday could be like pretty mellow, like Saturdays are the best. There's like a gentle, nice quality, even though it's like, you might look back on that later and be like, what was I thinking? Because that's Neptune. But enjoy that. Just know that that's what it is. Like you can step into Wonderland beyond the looking glass or something for a little while. Just know that that's where you are. And I don't know, some people, if you're a person who lives there, like me, that might mean something different. Saturday evening / Saturday night is more energetic. The moon moves into Aries, which continues our preview of Venus is now in shadow, and Venus is going to station retrograde in Aries. Excuse me. So over the next couple of months, we're going to go like back and forth through this like gentle imaginative realm, and then into this like energetic, totalitarian metaverse. So Saturday, you get a little bit of that. Also, during this Venus retrograde, Neptune is going to change signs. Neptune is going to retrograde back into Pisces in October, but for like the end of March through sometime in October, we have Neptune in Aries, which is very different. It's a very different vibe than what we've been having over the past 12 years. So this is Venus. Oh, I forgot what I was saying. I got distracted. But so on February 1st, Venus conjoins Neptune. Venus conjoins Neptune again on March 27th, while Venus is retrograde. So that's again in Pisces. 2 days later, and in between eclipses, Neptune moves into Aries, which is a whole other video that happens in between eclipses. So whatever this week is about, you're going to come back to it, but even that isn't going to be what it seems. The final one way to parse this is like agnostic of the sign that it's occurring in. This is a Venus-Neptune conjunction. So that applies to whatever parts of your chart are governed by Venus, wherever Venus is in your chart, what planets are ruled by Venus in your chart, and the same with Neptune, although Neptune's not going to rule anything. It's just like wherever Neptune is in your chart, the planets it concerns, this is Venus-Neptune. So aside from the signs, you're experiencing Venus-Neptune, which is like, can be very romantic and beautiful, but also can like, those experiences, no matter how like deep and rich and beautiful they are, they can be just like blown away like a sand mandala. And you can be later like, ooh, I would never make that decision again. But in the moment, they can be like the richest, most meaningful, beautiful experience in the world. So we get that twice. And then the third Venus-Neptune conjunction occurs in Aries. So the first two are exalted Venus with Neptune in a place that can do Neptune really well. The third one is Venus in detriment with Neptune doing something very different. So I wouldn't say the story like ends on a high note. It's just very different, or like the high note that you feel once Venus is direct is going to be a very different tone. So just enjoy whatever this is, but know this is not the thing. If you can recognize it as a temporary thing, recognize that. Then you can enjoy it for what it is. So Saturday, the second part of Saturday, that's the moon in Aries, much more energetic. That's also the moon ruled by Mars, retrograde in Cancer, so much more aggro. That's the moon connecting with Pluto, like, F this-ish, I'm gonna do it my way. And the thing I see with Saturday night is like energy. And there might even be like a lot of like stay up all night talking kind of energy, because the moon is applying to a sextile with Mercury, also in Aquarius. The moon in Aries sextiling Mercury in Aquarius on Sunday morning. So Saturday night, energetic, talking, potentially dangerous. Moon is still ruled by Mars in Cancer, retrograde. It's not bad, mostly, at least the first part of Sunday. Sunday morning is fun. We have the moon sextile, the moon in Aries sextile, Jupiter in Gemini. So, and Jupiter stationing. So there is like optimism, things paying off, you doing the right thing with the opportunities you've been afforded, and the moon sextiling the sun. So the moon's now starting to gain light. So it's like, the end of Sunday is like to be continued, but there might be like some sort of like mind screw or sudden downer foreshadowing, because early next Monday morning, the moon ruled by Mars, the moon in Aries ruled by Mars, squares Mars, its ruler, retrograde in Cancer. And Mars is going to station direct soon, so we're like, it's just like reminding us of maybe things that went badly earlier. They're coming back up again. You know, even if they're not coming back up again in the world, maybe in your nightmares. But the Sunday night strikes me as kind of brutal for that. So buckle in, be careful. Remember, your Wi-Fi is a camera that can see through walls.